to Holistic Kid Show. My name is Zane.
And my name's Abdullah.
We are the Holistic Kids, here to educate and empower us kids from the inside out.
We are so excited to talk to our next guest. She is a medical doctor and a doctor that looks for the root cause of why people are sick. Today, it is our honor to speak to Dr. Rajka. With everything going on now, it is more important than ever to speak. It's more important than ever that we take care of our immune system. But now with the holidays, there are things that can help or weaken your immune system. Can't wait to learn more, right, Jen?
Can't wait.
Time to talk about how to keep the immune system strong during the holidays.
Thank you, Dr. Rajka.
Thank you, guys. That was a beautiful introduction. I love your enthusiasm, and I think your viewers here will be excited to learn everything that we're going to share that you guys have been learning all along as you've interviewed all the hundreds of guests. So thanks for having me.
It is our pleasure.
Yeah, it was our honor.
Dr. Rajka has been successfully leading families to optimal health for over 20 years as a board-certified family medicine doctor and is a leading functional medicine consultant certified by the Institute for Functional Medicine, or IFM. She is an international speaker and teaches other doctors about functional medicine. Having overcome 2 autoimmune diseases, along with multiple symptoms, gives her first-hand knowledge and empathy for the challenges that face her patients. Her ultimate goal is to have these women empower their families and their tribes to optimal health. She sees patients at the clinic she founded, Simply Health Institute, outside of Chicago, Illinois, and she lives near us.
Really?
Yep, I'm just down the road. I think about 11 minutes driving.
Wow, you're so close.
Thank you for that lovely introduction, boys. I love it. So that's a little bit about me. Do you want to hear kind of what led me down this journey from how did I go from a regular doctor to a functional medicine doctor?
Yeah, we would love to hear your story.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Rajka, for joining us today. Dr. Rajka, how did a family medicine doctor go from that to a doctor looking for root causes?
We would love to hear your story.
Okay. Thank you again for that nice introduction. And like many of us in the field is we get into it because we ourselves aren't doing well and we're struggling to find out why do we not feel well? And we've seen doctor after doctor and we've been told everything's normal. And sometimes doctors even suggest that just because we're a little tired and everything looks normal, that maybe we're depressed, and they offer us antidepressants. And all of us know that we don't need antidepressants. We need to find that root cause. And so that's what led me on the journey. And there were so many symptoms, and some of that didn't allow me to achieve some of my dreams. So I had a dream of becoming a doctor and I almost didn't make it through. I had a dream of getting married and having a family, and I struggled to get pregnant and have my own children. And then I had a dream of opening my own practice. And when we were living all around the US and world, and I was about to move back to the US and open my practice, and I developed what they thought was a second autoimmune disease. And I was so very sick, I thought I was going to die. And so with the help of another doctor, because I was just learning functional medicine, I was able to reverse all of my symptoms, and I was never given that diagnosis for that second autoimmune disease. So I'm even more empowered now than ever to make sure that no one has to suffer needlessly like I did, and they can achieve their dreams as well.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
There's a lot to talk about the immune system. Let's start with the basics. What is the immune system?
That's a good question. So it's a part of our body that protects us from foreign invaders. So whether we encounter something, so it's our army, and it keeps bad guys out of our body, and then it fixes things that need to be fixed. So say that you eat some food that's bad and it's got an army of bad bugs in it, and it's going to make you sick. It helps you recover from that so you don't get very sick. You might just get a little sick. The other thing the immune system needs to do, so it not only has to recognize what's bad for us, but it has to recognize our own bodies. And we were just talking about that. I had recovered 2 autoimmune diseases. And why that happens is our body gets tricked into thinking that part of our own body is a foreign invader, and it attacks it. And so it can attack our joints, and then we have arthritis, or our brain, and we might be depressed. So does that make sense? So it protects us against the bad guys, and it makes sure that we don't attack ourselves, our own tissue.
That makes total sense.
Total sense. So the immune system is like our army, keeping bad guys out of our body and fixing what needs to be fixed. Keeping our body safe, right?
That's exactly right. I think you have that. You hit the nail right on the head.
Why is it important for our immune system to work well if we want to stay healthy?
So the first thing is, think about this cold and flu season that's coming up, and even COVID that we've all been experiencing. And well, not everyone's gotten it, but everyone's worried about getting it. And so a lot of people have gotten very sick, and many have even died. Is that it's so very important to keep us from getting sick or even getting very sick. And then it's important for preventing our bodies from wrongly attacking the wrong parts. So only the bad guys and not the good guys. So not our normal tissue or our joints.
What can we do to make sure our immune system works well?
Oh, we could spend an hour talking. What do you think on this one, huh? There's so much. But so if I had to pick 3 things, so there's 8 areas I look at. So I pick at eating healthy foods, and I bet you've talked to quite a few speakers on what healthy eating is like, and we can get more into depth later. So we eat healthy foods. We sleep right. So when we're sleeping, it's our time for our body to repair itself, so we're refreshed for the next day. And believe it or not many people get enough sleep these days. And with everything going on in the world, some people watch the news so late, and it makes their sleep even worse because they're so worried about everything going on. And the last part, I hope you guys, as being as young as you are, but bright, of course, that you're not so prone to stress. But stress is that you perceive something as hard or difficult or challenging. And so we can use our minds to make something seem really bad. And we can also use our minds to kind of get over that. And so stress makes our immune system not work well. So those, if I had to pick 3 things, I'd say to focus on eating healthy foods. If you're an adult, sleeping 7 to 8 hours at night, much more if you're under the age of 18. So up to 10 or 12 hours, and then babies and infants, even more than that. And then doing something to reduce the stress, something as simple as going out into nature, believe it or not. Do you guys like to be out in nature and hike?
Yeah, we love to hike and climb.
Yeah, I bet the climbing is fun. So yeah, being out in nature will reduce something called a hormone in our body called cortisol. And that's what gets us inflamed and can throw our immune systems off. So being out in nature or doing some simple breathing exercises. Do you guys ever do any meditations?
Yeah, we love to do meditations.
Yeah, so even as little as 10 minutes a day.
So why is sugar bad for the immune system?
So what sugar does is it actually is inflammatory. So when we're inflamed, cortisol goes up. And when cortisol goes up, it can cause our immune system not to function like it should. So we may not be able to fight infections. So if you do get a little bit of a fever or a cold, probably the best thing to do is not eat for a period of time. So I'm not talking days, but even if you could fast for 12 hours, so that would just be from dinner one night till the next morning, or even a little bit longer, then you wouldn't be getting the inflammation would naturally decrease. So that's why sugar is bad for you.
And now let's talk about gluten. Why is gluten bad for the immune system?
So gluten has two ways that it can be bad. One is gluten is one of those foods that can also be very inflammatory. And when you're inflamed, again, remember it tricks the body into thinking that to releasing something called cortisol, and cortisol doesn't allow our immune system to function properly. The other thing, and I bet you're really familiar with this term, is gluten in all of us for a period of 4 to 6 hours can cause something called leaky gut. Have you guys heard about that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you have. I'm sure you have. I'm sure interviewing your other guests and kind of listening to your mom talk over and over again. And so leaky gut, what that is that the way we protect ourselves from the outside world is the lining of our intestines is 1 cell thick and it's tightly bound. And then there's a thin layer of mucus. And that's all we have to protect ourselves from anything we put in our mouths. And whenever we're exposed to stress or antibiotics, or in this case, gluten, that tight junction between those cells opens. So then, as you can imagine, it can let bad guys in. And so that's a problem. And if you're eating gluten all day long, then that stays open and can be a trigger for our immune system not to recognize what's good and what's bad.
A lot of kids now are lactose intolerant, and dairy causes problems. Is dairy a problem also?
Dairy is one of those other inflammatory foods. So dairy can make us inflamed, increase our cortisol, throw off our immune system. By the way, if your cortisol is high, it can make you feel inflamed. Some people talk about their joints hurting or maybe their tummy bloating. And in regard to dairy, there's 2 parts of dairy that are a problem. So one is what you had asked, the lactose, which is the sugar part of dairy. Can be a problem, or the protein, and protein is the casein and whey, and that's getting a little bit fancy, but just know you can be intolerant of the protein or the lactose. Interestingly enough, when you're younger, you can break down that lactose, but as we get older, 75% of us stop having the ability to break down the lactose. That's why some people will say they feel bloated after they drink milk. So if you have any kind of medical issue or if you're getting sick, it's definitely a good time to think about doing a trial off. So for doing a trial off for 21 days and seeing how you feel.
What other foods should we, kids and adults, avoid to make sure we don't weaken our immune system?
So we talked about the top 2, gluten and dairy, and sugar. We talked about 3 actually. And then soy is another inflammatory food. And then processed foods. So processed foods can contain dyes and additives and preservatives. And some of these can, again, also trigger our immune systems. And then other things is some people may have an issue with healthy foods that they eat. That might be a story for another time. And that happens when we have leaky gut and your body starts looking at the food funny and saying, hey, that looks like a blueberry we ate 3 weeks ago. But why is it bigger now? And maybe we should attack it. And other foods, and for myself personally, sometimes I don't do well with a lot of eggs or nuts or grains. And not everyone needs to avoid those. So eggs can give us valuable protein, and nuts can give us good fats and also protein. And then grains for some people are a go, but for many it causes pain. So the best way to figure it out is to take those out just for a short period of time and focus on whole foods, and then adding them back in after a few weeks to see if it's a problem for you.
A lot of kids now, you talked about processed foods. A lot of kids and adults are going to indulge on sweets and junk food during the holidays. Mm-hmm. Why is junk food, fast food, and soda bad for the immune system?
So the junk food is typically bad for the additives and preservatives, and a lot of junk food is made with vegetable oil, and that, believe it or not, makes us inflamed. And so we should have a balance of what we call, it's a fancy term. So we have omega-3 fatty acids. That's what we think about fish oil. And we have omega-6s, and vegetable oil is a lot of omega-6. So the ratio should be in check and pretty low, but a lot of people eat so much processed food that the omega-6s, which are inflammatory and can trigger the immune system, are too high. Same with fast food and soda. Typically, it contains too much sugar, not in the sense of that we added a teaspoon of sugar, but sugar in the sense of something called carbohydrates. So I always say in moderation, right? So don't most cultures have times that they fast during fasting times?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the fasting, so sometimes we need to fast when we're sick, and then obviously for various cultures. And sometimes we feast. And can you think of a time that you guys like to celebrate and maybe have these treats? Something sweet?
Well, Thanksgiving is coming up soon.
Yeah, Thanksgiving, but then don't overdo it. Make it one meal for the day that maybe you have a treat, not the whole day. And then don't let that day turn into days, and don't let those days turn into weeks. That's when we get into trouble.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the opposite. What foods are good for the immune system?
Okay, so the good foods for the immune system are whole foods. So that means anything that looks very close to how it grows in the ground. So think of an apple as it grows on the tree, or a banana, or even a tomato that you can pluck off of the vine. So anything that isn't processed is a good starting point. And then other foods are, I always say, eat the rainbow. Do you guys know what that means?
Yeah.
You don't think it means to eat Skittles, do you?
No.
Yeah. So I do a lot of speaking to some of the schools. Well, right now, many of the schools are closed, but when I did, and the students would tease me and they'd say that their Skittles were their rainbow, but we mean whole foods that are the colors. So one red, one orange, one yellow, one green, one blue, one purple, one tan food. So trying to eat a mix of colors through the day and having enough servings of vegetables. What's your favorite vegetables, guys?
I like carrots
Cucumbers.
and broccoli.
Oh, and broccoli.
Hmm.
And then having a balanced plate. So that means having enough, not only your vegetables, but then having enough protein. And that's what I think one thing that is becoming a problem is people don't get enough protein. Do you know what foods protein comes in? Or would you like me to tell you?
Does fish?
Yep, fish is protein. So think about fish and meat, some dairy, but remember we talked dairy can be inflammatory, and beans or lentils. So those are your main categories of protein, and even nuts have protein in them. And so the way you know you're getting enough at each meal is hold up your fist. Let's see your fist size. Who's got a bigger fist, Abdullah or Zane? Maybe it's about the same, but it should be about the size of your fist. So you don't even have to weigh it. So if half your plate could be vegetables on one side and at least a quarter can be your fish, and then that for the other quarter, it depends on whether you eat grains or not. So if you don't eat grains, maybe that is starchy vegetables like sweet potato or something that carries a little more calorie. And off to the side, we should have a little room, a little tablespoon of some good fats like olive oil, maybe that we put on our salad, or a handful of nuts. So these are the foods that will keep our immune system functioning properly.
You talked about the rainbow, but we hear a lot about the sunlight and vitamin D. Why is nature and sunlight good for the immune system?
So the first thing was, let's talk about sunlight first. So if the sun helps us convert vitamin D at the skin level. The problem is in the winter months, for almost all people, it's really hard for that to happen. We can't expose enough of our body, and there's not enough sun. And so, because when it's cold, we're not going to go outside in shorts and a t-shirt or a tank top because it's too cold, right? And so vitamin D is actually a hormone, and it regulates the way our immune system functions. So we have to have high enough levels. And the problem is a lot of people don't get their levels measured, and most adults need at least 5,000 IUs of vitamin D, children less, and then you would want to have your levels checked. Do you guys take vitamin D?
Yeah.
Yeah, we take vitamin D.
Okay, good. And hopefully you're outside when there is some sun and it's not so cold. And then as far as nature, how nature, several ways. One, we talked about when you go out into the forest, it can lower, nature itself, it can lower cortisol. And so it can regulate a stressful response. And then it allows our immune systems to function normally. And then even putting our bare feet on the ground can help balance us and ground us, and it lowers the cortisol as well. So you guys ever go barefoot outside?
Yeah, we
Yes.
do.
Okay, great.
So, with a lot of us indoors now that it's getting colder, we are indoors even more. How does our environment, cleaning products, and other toxins affect our immune system?
So being indoors, if you're not getting sun, remember your vitamin D levels will likely drop over the winter. So it's getting your levels checked and being on the right dose for your body, as your functional medicine doctor advises, is the first way. And when we're inside, you said something really important, is our air outside is so much healthier than our air inside. And if we're indoors all day, we have to be very careful not to put things in the air that will make us sick. So the products that we use to clean even our counters or our floors can release chemicals. And if you can smell the chemical, it only takes 26 seconds for that chemical to get in your bloodstream and have an effect. So bleach is really highly toxic, and you can actually get good effects with using vinegar and water. Now, in times of COVID, most people recommend, straight alcohol, but there's so many different products that are made on the market, and there's websites that review them. So Environmental Working Group can review products, and they have a whole list of safe cleaning products if you don't want to make your own and don't have the time. The other toxins are what we put on our face. So you guys probably don't wear makeup, but I know that you'll shampoo your hair, right?
Yeah.
And then you might brush your teeth and wash your face. And so for those products, I always say it's good to do a checklist and look at what you're using on your body. Especially as kids, your surface area is really large. That means if I give you a little bit of a cream that's toxic, it'll absorb very quickly. So you have to be very careful. So I have all my patients use an app called Think Dirty, and you can enter a product and see if it's safe to use. It ranks it in green, yellow, or red. So green products are safe, yellow are iffy, and red means don't use this. Find an alternative product. And that app actually is for the smartphone, and it's entirely free. And say that you can't find the product you're using and you don't know, you can enter shower soap and it gives you some suggestions. And safe products don't have to be very expensive either.
We hear a lot about mold. How can mold make us sick?
So mold releases spores, and so it's actually the toxic spores that they release. And believe it or not, we're probably all exposed to it. So it's outside and sometimes inside, preferably not inside. About 30% of the population can get very sick if they're exposed. So some key things are to make sure that if your home is very damp, is to use a dehumidifier. Thankfully, in the winter months, most homes are very dry, right? Your nose dries out. So keeping the air dry, but there's a fine balance as how dry you get it so you don't get nosebleeds. Keeping the air dry, making sure that if a spill occurs, that you clean it up, making sure that you ventilate. Common places are like your washing machine, so the mold can build up around that. And then even toilets flooding, and then of course having your basements flood. So one of the things you can do is to do air filters for your bedrooms. That's where we spend a lot of our time, right? So hopefully at least 8 hours. And so the mold is a problem in only about 30%. And even though we can't avoid it, you can certainly lower the level in your house by using some of those things like a dehumidifier and even an air filter.
That was such great information. Are there supplements that can optimize our immune system?
Yes. So typically I like to just leave our listeners with 3 things, but I'm going to talk about 5. Is that okay?
Okay.
So besides the healthy diet and sleeping right, and getting out into nature. So in regard to supplements, when I look at vitamins and minerals, the top 3 are vitamin D. We already talked about that, and everyone probably needs a little extra in the winter. Vitamin A, so you can get some from your orange vegetables that you eat, your carrots and your sweet potatoes. Ideally, it would be to have a little bit that you take in a multivitamin, because usually those doses aren't too high. And then zinc. And zinc, one way you can tell if you don't have enough zinc, take a look at your fingernails. Do you see any white spots on your fingernails?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, then that means you might need some zinc. So I'm not talking about the half moon, little white dots. So if you see white dots, so the half moon is going to be lighter at the base. But I'll have to check it out later. Drive by your house and see, or ask your mom. So you may not need some zinc. So those are the 3 vitamins and minerals that really help boost the immune system. The third thing is probiotics. So that's good bacteria. And yes, you can get it from fermented foods, but sometimes it's nice to just take a little in a capsule form to help support the good bacteria. And the last one is probably one of my favorites is fish oil. So our omega-3 fatty acids. So those are my 5 that I love to use to boost the immune system.
What are your tips? What are your tips as a mom of 2 and a family physician to optimize our health
during the holidays?
Okay, so we talked about some of the basics, so it's a good time to do a little review, and then I'm going to add some other tips. So during the holidays, we can create stress, and we don't want to do that. So we talked sleep right, eat our whole foods, get out in nature, and then just breathe. So simply doing some meditation. So those are key. And obviously with the whole foods, eating in a balanced plate. But then for the holidays, it's really easy to get very stressed out by putting too much on your plate. So I say, just take half off your plate. I'm not talking about your food plate, but what your to-do list, do less and make sure you laugh. So when there's some time off, when everyone's off for the holidays, is watch a funny movie. So take time off, spend it together, eat dinner and have a good conversation and laugh. So laugh at dinner, laugh over a good show. All those things will help to boost the immune system over the holidays. Oh, I forgot one thing. Can I add one more thing?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
So especially in this time, we're going to speak a little bit about gratitude. So being grateful. So when you're grateful, you can't be stressed out, or when you're grateful, you can't be unhappy, right? So I like to write down what I'm grateful for every morning. And sometimes it's helpful. I ask my kids at dinner, hey, what was the best part of your day? And what are you grateful for? And so talking about it as well. And in that line of being grateful and with the Thanksgiving holiday is to do random acts of kindness. So I was at Whole Foods in line and the gentleman behind me didn't put like a little bar between his food and mine. And I noticed that a couple of the items, like, I don't think these are mine. And that I had already even paid for it, everything. And so he was so embarrassed. And I said, you know what? It's fine. I said, accept it as a gift. Like, isn't it nice to get a treat sometime when you didn't expect it? And he was so grateful, and the cashier couldn't believe that I paid for his groceries, but he left happier, right? So we should all look at practicing small random acts of kindness every day.
Wow, I hope that inspired others as much it inspired us.
What is one take-home point parents and kids can start today?
One take-home point, boy, probably in this day and age is enjoy each other's company. We've talked about all those things, and then hopefully with shelter in place, enjoy your own family, and then be grateful that you have what you do.
You are so inspirational. Where can people learn more about you and your work?
So I do have a website. It's drrajka.com, drrajka.com. And I think after this airs, there'll be a link. I did create a 10 days to infinite energy guide, and it goes over some of the things we talked about here in the show. And so viewers will have a compact guide so they know tips and strategies to follow, not only to boost their energy, but to boost their immune system.
That was so empowering. So during these holidays, it's important to follow these simple steps to optimize our immune system. Everyone, please make sure to follow Dr. Rajka on social media. To recap Dr. Rajka's key points,
the immune system keeps our bodies safe. So we need to feed and take care of our body so our bodies can take care of us. Limit or eliminate sugar, processed foods, artificial foods, junk foods as well. These will only weaken your immune system. In our house, we made pie, but we make the crust with almond flour instead of sugar and wheat. Now it's so delicious. Even without all that stuff, you can still make delicious meals instead of all those old ones. So instead of all of those unhealthy ones. So you can have fun and keep your body healthy.
2. Focus on real food. Eat the rainbow with veggies, fruit, clean protein, and healthy fat. These foods will give your body the minerals it needs to make sure the immune system is working well.
Stress can be real around the holidays, so make sure to take time out to take care of yourself. We love to pray and meditate to keep those damaging hormones away from us. We also love to spend time in nature and exercise. Super important for your immune system, right, Zen?
Super important. 4. Sleep. Sleep is super important for your immune system. If you aren't sleeping, it can actually make you more prone to get viruses and get sick. Make sure you are able to optimize your sleep by working on getting to bed on time. Stay away from technology 30 to 60 minutes before bed.
And focus on gratitude daily. With all the things going on in the news, it's important to be thankful and not get stressed. Make sure you take your supplements. We need certain nutrients that we might not get. We might not be getting from foods that will keep our immune system strong and working well. A lot of kids are deficient in vitamin D and fish oil, so we make sure that we take those regularly.
See, so easy and so much fun. These holidays, make sure you work on getting healthier as a family instead of sicker. And this is the best time to try different recipes. We love experimenting. Wow, Dr. Rajka, that was so amazing. You are such an inspiration to so many parents and kids. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, you're very welcome. I so enjoyed talking to you.
The decisions we make every day can either make your immune system happy or sad. So thank you for educating us. On how we can keep our immune system happy. Yay!
You're very welcome. Yeah.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Zain Ansari.
And I'm Abdullah.
Follow my family and I on social media, Holistic Mom and Tea, and look out for my mom's book, The Holistic RX, your guide to healing chronic inflammation and disease, and the amazing children's book we wrote together called Adam's Healing Adventures. So check it in on Amazon. Yay!
Remember, our bodies and our health is a huge blessing, and we need to take care of our bodies the best we know how. Join us next week for another episode of the Holistic Kids Show, where kids are empowering kids.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, boys. What a great time I had today.